There are 43 dioramas in the Hall of North American Mammals in the American Museum of Natural History in New York City. For 79 years, these dioramas have constructed a vision of American nature as pristine, wild, and lively. In total, there are more than 100 dioramas, a selective representation of the 34 million specimens owned by the museum. The diorama is a scientific tool of analysis and spectacle. The animal is captured and slaughtered, then taxidermied. This preserved specimen is then set behind a glass screen. Careful attention is put towards recomposing a convincing scene. The animal's habitat is studied, its social interactions, its diet, its poses. The diorama is a colonial tool. The scientific lens of the diorama, one of possession, analysis, and catalog, is easily turned towards the subjects of colonial empire, just as it may be flipped on the colonizers. In his Notes on the State of Virginia, published in 1782, Thomas Jefferson makes an exhaustive catalog of Virginia's nature. Hot springs, coal, trees, salt, rivers, and so on. Regarding the recent discovery of mammoth bones, he writes, "But to whatever animal we ascribe these remains, it is certain such a one has existed in America, and that it has been the largest of all terrestrial beings. It should have sufficed to have rescued the earth it inhabited and the atmosphere it breathed from the imputation of impotence in the conception and nourishment of animal life on a large scale, to have stifled in its birth the opinion of a writer, the most learned, too, of all others in the science of animal history, that in the New World, la nature vivante est beaucoup moins agissante, beaucoup moins forte. That nature is less active, less energetic on one side of the globe than she is on the other." In a table of measurements comparing the sizes of European and American mammals, the mammoth is an indisputable win. The United States is as vivacious as the Old World, even more, perhaps. In 2017, protesters splashed blood red paint on the statue in front of the American Museum of Natural History in New York City. The statue is composed of three figures: Theodore Roosevelt on horseback, flanked by an anonymous Native American and African American on foot. A clear hierarchy is established. "Now the statue is bleeding," a statement by the protesters reads. "We did not make it bleed. It is bloody at its very foundation." In 1880, the new museum president, Morris K. Jessup, launches the museum into a golden age of exploration. The museum sends representatives that discover the North Pole, traverse unmapped wilderness in Siberia, explore outer Mongolia and the Great Gobi, and cut through the jungles of the Congo. In 1921, the museum hosts the Second International Eugenics Congress. 4 years later, the museum commissions a statue for the front of the museum. It is specified to be a heroic monument celebrating Theodore Roosevelt. The statue is one of 4 memorials in New York under scrutiny of a city commission in 2017. In 2019, the museum creates an exhibition called Addressing the Statue. The facade of the museum is reproduced and brought under the scrutiny of diorama. On the topic of the statue's removal, Theodore Roosevelt IV says, "The world does not need statues, relics of another age, that reflect neither the values of the person they intend to honor nor the values of equality and justice." The composition of the equestrian statue does not reflect Theodore Roosevelt's legacy. It is time to move the statue and move forward. Theodore Roosevelt was the 26th President of the United States. He was a supporter of eugenics theory, an imperialist for the Caribbean, a racist naturalist, and a proponent of the sterilization of the poor and the intellectually disabled.
Here on Indigenous Peoples Day, I thought that it was a really important time to invite my family to come out here and sort of do whatever we could. And I thought that, in 2021, with all of the, discussions about statues and racism, I thought that it was time for this statue to go.